Hi, everyone, and welcome to Startup here on Name Hero, our official blog. I'm Ryan Gray, the founder and CEO here at Name Hero. And today I want to talk a little bit about something a little bit different than reseller web hosting and different than WordPress, and that's the dip that occurs in business. At Name Hero, and especially on our startup blog here, we work primarily with entrepreneurs. We host websites for all kinds of entrepreneurs and individuals, from offline businesses to online businesses to those that offer reseller web hosting, to WordPress developers, to web developers, to PHP developers. There's just a huge group of entrepreneurs we work with in many different industries and many different facets of internet marketing and online marketing in general. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the dip, what it is, and what it means to entrepreneurs, and what this means for you as we get ready to head into the new year. And each year around this time, November, December, around the holidays, I like to reflect back on my last 12 months and really look at things and how things have went as far as business goes. Now let me bring up this graphic so we can talk about it. This is called The Dip, and this is an individual named Seth Godin. He wrote this book, and I highly recommend the book, and I'll show you it on Amazon here in just a second. But it's about it's not even 100 pages. It's about 80 pages long. Really small book. You can read it in about an hour. And you can read the first couple of pages on Amazon. But it talks about the dip and why we face this as entrepreneurs and how to kind of blast through it. So let's talk about this graphic really quick. And this goes along, for this context, we're going to talk about businesses and online businesses in general. But we're going to compare this to other things in life. So let's just take a look here. When you start a business online, and whether that be a website that you're looking just to get a lot of visitors to, or whether you're starting a web hosting company, or whether you're starting a membership website, any type of business, it most of the time goes like this. As soon as you launch, you have this little surge that occurs right here. And not a ton of efforts went into it. Yes, you have had the effort to building out your product and to coming up to your minimum viable product. But once it's out, you kind of have this little splurge of results here. You see the results as you've worked and the effort you've put into it. You kind of see this little curve that happens. Over time, though, initially that surge kind of draws down and you experience what we call the dip. And so in Seth's book, he talks about what this is and when you should give up or quit and when you should stick with stuff. Me running businesses next month makes my 19th year working online and running internet businesses online. And throughout my nearly 2 decades, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs come and go. And without a doubt, the biggest problem I see with a lot of new coming entrepreneurs is they can't survive this dip. And so they don't know when to stick and when to stay. I think all of us entrepreneurs have some form of ADHD, and we always have all these great ideas, and it's like a squirrel cage in our head going around of what we can do. But then we have to decide what we can. We have to realize we're only one person, and what can we do and do it successfully. I see too many entrepreneurs, they'll fail because once they get into things and they experience this dip, they get a bunch of demotivation. When you start anything new business, new website, lifting weights, exercising, cooking even, anything you start new, it's exciting, it's adventurous, you're really pumped to do it. And I'm sure you see this in your own life. And you see this initial burst of results from that newness. But after the newness kind of wears off, and if we compare it to lifting weights, after the first 8 weeks come by and you haven't made extraordinary gains yet, and you have to get up every morning to go to the gym, or you have to be devoted to going, it's not as much fun. And so we see a lot of people around the 8-week mark or sometimes sooner with working out, they just say, well, it's not for me. I don't want to do this anymore. I no longer have that excitement. And that's the dip. That's the dip. It's realizing that, well, this isn't all it's cracked out to be. But what happens as entrepreneurs, if we can recognize and realize when that dip occurs, and if we can power through it, the result normally is exponential growth or results. So whether this is in weightlifting or if it is in business, we see this in the growth overall of what you're trying to accomplish. So I can talk about this throughout all my internet businesses. I've realized and recognized the dip. And as an entrepreneur, if you don't recognize this, it's easy to give up too quick. It's easy to give up right before you have a lot of success. And out of 7 internet-based businesses I've started that have gone on to become multi-million-dollar corporations, there's been times in each one of them where I've experienced a dip and this demotivation, where I've wanted to give up, where I've wanted to quit, and I haven't, because I've recognized the dip and I realize that it's just part of it. And then I move on and power through it. This has happened with Name Hero even. When I first started Name Hero, I had this initial results and effort curve. Then you kind of go down here because that newness kind of wears off. But then once you realize you're in a dip, then you power through, and then the results come even quicker. If I highly suggest you read this book, though. If you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what type of business you run, but if you are a business owner, operator, entrepreneur, or thinking about starting your own business, I recommend this just because it's at $11 here on Amazon, and you can read through the first couple pages here on here. And like I said, it's only about 70 pages long. So he gives out his first couple pages here for free, so you can kind of get an idea of it. But it's just really good because it allows you to see when this is, when it occurs, and it says a little book teaches you when to quit and when to stick. If I did some research when I was preparing this blog post, and I saw this post here by Andy Driss, and he talks about his experience as an entrepreneur, and he talks about the missing chapter of the dip. This is especially interesting to me, and I recommend you read this blog post. I'll link to it in my blog when I post this up. But he shows, we go down here, what he sees the dip as, and this is really important. So at first it's like this, right? You don't have a whole lot, and you have the dip like what Seth talks about, but then you have this surge of growth. But then you have the breaking point. And Seth doesn't talk about this in his book. But I've also experienced this, where you go through these stages where you're just starting out, you're motivated, you build this up, you have results, you hit a dip, you realize and recognize it, and you power through the dip, but then you hit what's called the breaking point. And this can be very frustrating because you reach this new high and you think, well, everything's all great, but then you have this reconstruction phase, and then you have to break back through that, and you go back up, and then you go back down to another dip, and so forth and so on. So we see this in every business. I've seen it in every one of my businesses, and Name Hero included. We have these dips, and it's not just one. It's not just, we don't just get through this in the beginning and then it's over with. As with growth, the saying always goes, more money, more problems. Well, I especially see this in growth. Once you start to grow more, well, then you start to have different types of issues. And maybe at first it's all about the cash flow issue. You need more money, you need more cash, you need more profits, you need more sales. Of course, that's very important for any business to have success initially. But once you start to solve that, then you start to run into other things. Well, sales growth maybe stalled a little bit, or maybe now I've got good sales growth, but I need help on optimizing this. And so this is all stuff we have to realize and recognize as entrepreneurs. And as we head into the next year, we have to look at where we experience these dips and how we recognize them and how we get out of them. Without a doubt, teaching reseller hosting on our blog, I see a lot of people that will come in initially from either taking one of our free courses on the blog, or reading about it, or watching us on YouTube, and they've got all this excitement in the beginning, but then after they realize, well, this is going to take a little bit of work, then they start to experience their first dip. And so this might even come before your hosting service is even launched, because maybe this is just hype, right? Maybe this is just the excitement of building your own business, and maybe the dream of adding extra revenue to your current business, or even quitting your current day job. And then you experience this here, and we see this a big drop-off point for everyone. In Seth's book, he talks about that different industries have different dipping points, and really the bigger the dip is for industry, the more of a competitive advantage it gives you. In the web hosting industry, there's a tremendous dip, and that's because really to be a web host, it doesn't take a lot of secrets to do it. Now, in my opinion, to do it right, it takes some high quality equipment and software and some strategic investing into the right things, right people, but it doesn't necessarily take a brain scientist to render a web hosting platform. And we see this with reseller hosting. A reseller can get online for really under $20 a month and start their own business. But where do they find success is a little bit different, and where they kind of catapult out of that. So the dip in the web hosting industry is there's so many people out there offering web hosting, where can you fit in? And so you power through the dip by penetrating your exact niche or your different angle so to speak. But again, I've seen this not only in the hosting niche. I've seen this in, I had a pro wrestling website. That was one of my first businesses ever online. I experienced the dip many times throughout that business. I had a marketing company, an advertising agency, where we ran campaigns for other companies, and we had a bunch of affiliate marketers that worked with us. We had many dips in that business. I'm still a partner in a software company where we've, over the last 6 years of running it, we've had many different dips and I had to work through those. So it's not just the reseller hosting niche. It's not just the pro wrestling. It's not just software. It's not just ad agency. It's every single niche, every single business out there experiences some type of dip. And this is why I like this by Andy Drish. I like his deception here of the dip, because it's not just it's not just results in effort. It's really the more time that goes on, the more these dips that you see. But without a doubt, in my opinion, the solution to the dip is recognizing it, is realizing it, and is then moving forward past that. And once you recognize and realize it, and it's getting through that. But you get through that with what I call consistency. So plain and simple, that's the way to get out of the dip, is consistency and being consistent. And that's the same thing if you look at things in life, not only just in business, but if you look at working out, lifting weights, or trying to lose weight. You get results by consistently going to the gym every day, or consistently eating right every day. Just having a salad for lunch today is not going to make you lose weight tomorrow, but eating a salad every day for 30, 60 days, then you start to lose weight and you reap the benefits of the results that you put into it. The exact same thing goes into running a business. You get out of it what you put into it. And that's the key. That's the secret. The secret that everyone yearns for in business success is consistency. And I've seen some of the smartest people fail at business just because they're not consistent. And this all goes down to recognizing these dips and being entrepreneur ADHD. Again, as entrepreneurs, I feel like we all have some form of ADHD where we feel like, well, I've got this great idea, I could do this. I got this other great idea, I could do that. I got this other great idea if I put these together. But if you operate like that, you end up having a little bit of everything, and you never see through one full project. So it's better to take that energy, laser it into what you want to do, what you're the most passionate about, and see it all the way through to the end. And this is something me personally I've dealt with in my last 19 years working online. Right now there's probably 20 business ideas in my head that I would love to start tomorrow. All the time my wife's saying, well, we could do this or we could do that. I said, yeah, we could. But right now, I just don't have the time. Right now, the only time I have is to run Name Hero, especially with our current growth. But our growth has come over the course of the last 3 years of being consistent day in and day out and providing a top-notch service. And so this is something that I want you all to consider and to reflect back on this last year and to look, where did you hit these dips in your business? Did you recognize them? Did you break through the dips? Or did you did you stop? Kind of where did you fit in with those dips? And I feel like as we enter into the next year and we set our New Year's resolutions, maybe that looks like sticking with it a little bit longer, sticking with our businesses a little longer before deciding to throw in the towel. And I think Seth's book is a great start to helping you realize when these dips occur and when you should stick and when you should not stick. He mentions a good quote in his book, and he talks about you only quit if you fail, or you only fail if you give up. And that's not always the case, because there's times that you have to look at it and say, well, this is not sustainable, and so I can't continue on because I need to give up this particular thing. I need to stop and then focus on what is working. And so it's not necessarily you're going to fail if you give up, but there's things you need to be able to quit at, whereas there's things you need to stick at. And so as entrepreneurs, it's always important that we do remember that. And so in 2017, where did you get your dips? Did you see through those dips? What dips do you plan on in 2018? Are you going to power through those dips and experience this reward after you get through the dip? Again, this is the hardest thing as any entrepreneur that we all go through, is the dip. And sometimes this comes in forms of depression. This comes in forms of back thoughts, doubting yourself, lack of confidence, lack of motivation. All of this stuff goes into it. And it's the same as working out. It's the same as getting on a diet and not losing weight the first 3 weeks of busting your butt, getting up every morning at 5 a.m. and eating right. But over the course of time, you see results from that diet. Same with working as an entrepreneur. So that's the dip. And as we approach 2018, I'm going to be doing more blog posts like this where I just talk about entrepreneurism in general, because I feel like here at Startup at Name Hero on our blog, we talk to a lot of different entrepreneurs, ranging from web hosts to web designers to WordPress developers to small business owners to brick and mortar shops. And so I want to just kind of produce content that speaks to all the entrepreneurs out there and helps them all, realize the challenges that we all face together and kind of how we can power through those to find the success that we all yearn for. So thanks so much for watching. Feel free to comment on this video or comment on this blog post. Let me know when you face the dip, what you do to get out of it, and some stuff that helps you stay motivated to be consistent day in and day out. Thanks so much, everyone.